Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of Prosperous Armenia Party, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. I will speak in English, so I will leave you some time to take on your headphones or earphones. And I have to start with something somehow personal. Whenever I meet Gagik Tsarukyan, I had one very deep feeling that this is of an utmost importance to have national business elite, national entrepreneurial elite, successful businessmen who can serve as a role model for generations, particularly young ones, and at the same time are true patriots, are deeply rooted in the country and its spirits, and work hard for offering jobs to their own people and for improving living conditions and standards in their own country. And this is really something which is valid in contemporary globalized world, where sometimes patriotism is considered to be even an ugly word or ancient word which doesn't belong to the contemporary world. I completely disagree with that. And I'll tell you a story from my own country, which, by the way, is also mid-sized or small-sized country, similar to Armenia. It's called Czech Republic, used to be Czechoslovakia one day. Just in these days, we remember that 25 years ago, we split it peacefully into two countries and we regained our sovereignty and independence once again. And at the beginning of 90s, we probably had a very similar destiny, a very similar way to follow. After we freed ourselves from Soviet-dominated empire, we had to restore all necessities of a free society. Of course, we knew that we needed to introduce free market, that we needed to restore private property, and that we needed to liberalize economy, which was fully 100% nationalized. And there were some theories and some ways how to do that. One was that we could go in a way of strategic sellings, so that we could take individual enterprises and sell them as fast as possible to multinationals, to well-established foreign companies, so that they would invest into them, take care of them, and make them prosper again. Yes, that would have been probably the fastest possible way. But there was also another way, which was slower, more painful, but in my feeling, more worthwhile. We decided in my country to involve people into that process. And therefore, we introduced a scheme of so-called voucher privatization, where we offered vouchers to the people that they could, for free, that they could invest into privatizing various enterprises, and therefore they could become shareholders of those enterprises. And then, of course, by various changes and mergers, those enterprises from a very fragmented ownership became more concentrated. And this was the process, by the way, that gave birth to national entrepreneurial elite, national entrepreneurial class that really would take care about the country and about the people, not only about the profit. And I think this is what counts. We have very similar stories of success in my country, like you have in Armenia, of which Gagik Tsarukyan is a very shining example. And I think this is something we share in our experience, how to get from a post-communist world into a free, functioning society, and I can only congratulate you to that. Now, as I said before, we are, my country and your country, are rather small countries, and small countries have to be more accommodative and more flexible in the international environment. And as I said this morning at the university, where I was honored by an honorary doctorate, which I once again thank very much, those smaller countries, maybe surprisingly, sometimes are also a very good success stories because they have to rely on much more opened economies than some bigger states. And first of all, we will talk about this later on, they have to rely very much on the international trade exchange because usually their economies are very much dependent on exports. Of course, to be a small state and to be isolated small state would not be enough. We have to be part of some bigger economic complexes. We have to be a part of some global economic network to have the chance to trade freely with the rest of the world. And you know that my country became, it's been almost 15 years ago, a member of the organization called European Union, which is first of all an economic complex, also a bit political one, but I do not want to elaborate on this at the moment. I know that maybe some of you consider European Union also a role model. Of course, European Union is wealthy, it's stable, it's peaceful, somehow prosperous. But believe me, it is far from being perfect. Because if it was perfect, probably such a strong and successful country like United Kingdom would not be leaving European Union. European Union at this moment is facing, in my opinion, 4 parallel crises. But we can take them also as opportunities. The first one is economic crisis, because the EU focuses on saving the single currency, the Eurozone, in its present form, despite unbridgeable structural differences. The monetary union, the Eurozone, is kept alive by means of massive debt transfers. And all that is done only to save a project to which a lot of political and financial capital has already been invested. Second crisis, which European Union is facing at the moment, is migration crisis. The greatest migration wave since World War II has highlighted differences between member states, causing a new West-East division. And this is appearing across the whole European Union, alongside the already existing North-South Eurozone divide. The old member states demand that new member states bear their share of the consequences of their former incorrect policies, threatening otherwise to bring about a revision of the rules that guide redistribution via the so-called structural funds. So the migration crisis has clearly shown that identity and solidarity derived from the interests of a non-existent European nation are pure illusions. Third one is security crisis, be it either religious terrorism or assertive policy of one of our eastern neighbors, or changing international situation overall, that have once again breathed new life into a discussion about Europe's security architecture. There are concerns that Europe needs to be more operative, strategically self-sufficient, and of course, there are various views how to secure that. On one hand, we have probably to take care more about our own security. On the other hand, we again have to be a part of some wider security structure because we cannot do it on our own. And the fourth crisis European Union is facing is a crisis of trust. And clear example of that was Brexit. Brexit embodies the democratic and institutional crisis in the European Union. For the first time in the history of European integration, a member state has decided to give up its EU membership. And the decision made by British citizens to leave the ever closer union has clearly shown that the existing European integration paradigm is no longer advantageous and hence not sustainable for all member states. I represent here not only my small country, not only the European Parliament, but as has been said, also one particular political alliance or political family on the European level, which is called Alliance of European Conservatives and Reformists. And I would emphasize the word reformists in this particular moment. All those four crises of the European Union I have just described have a solution. We want to preserve European Union. We want to preserve close cooperation amongst European nations and European states. But that means that European Union has to change, and we are here to bring that change, to try to find a new paradigm, to change some old structures that are inefficient, and to bring some new fresh air to these old European institutions. And we are very happy that while doing that, we can also rely on support and cooperation of our partners from countries that maybe decided to go another way, but still are pursuing very close cooperation with European Union and its member states. I think that if I go back to my native country, that Czech Republic and Armenia probably see things in a very similar way. As a small countries, we have to be a part of some global network because of trade, because of economy, because of security. But on the other hand, we do not have to give up our sovereignty and our nationality for the sake of some supranational ideas that do not prove to be viable. And I am very glad, therefore, that we have found a very sound partner and reliable partner on the Armenian political scene, which is Prosperous Armenia Party. I see your party as a strong and stable part of the Armenian political scene. We've been watching you very closely, of course. We've been participating in the political campaign before recent elections, and we'll be happy to do it anytime again. And we very much rely on your support and on our friendship even in the future. I wish this conference to be successful. I wish very much that we would go deep down to various issues, be it trade or security cooperation or removal of various barriers in free movement of people and goods. I am looking forward to results of today's conference. And last but not least, I am very grateful to Prosperous Armenia Party and to its leader, Gagik Tsarukyan, for hosting us, for preparing that conference, and for creating such a tremendous environment and atmosphere. Thank you very much, and let's wish to all of us successful conference.